What's going on, guys? This is going to be our trade recap for today. And today we traded MES because there was huge discrepancies between ES and NQ for today. NQ was definitely ripping higher, right? So they were decoupled, not in sync. ES was just a lot weaker, right? So as we can see here, looking at the charts, ES was able to get above the London 8-hour block, and NQ was way above Asia's 8-hour block, right? So it was making new all-time highs and just ripping higher. As you can see, ES barely moved anywhere. So obviously, if we're going to short, we're going to be looking at ES for shorts. It's going to have an easier time running down lower and taking liquidity, versus if we try to short NQ, it may not take liquidity lower, even though it will pull back a nice amount. When you have SMTs like that, you want to short the weaker asset, right? So we chose MES, so that was the reasoning behind it. So now when we're paying attention to see what's going on with the charts, we can see that as it was approaching London's 8-hour blocks high, it started struggling a little bit, right? Placing some wicks, and then we had a fake out high candle. This is what the blue candle means. It's a failed breakout. It stopped hunted and closed back in the range. And then it was followed by two inside bars, and that equates to a small absorption in the market, and they're more than likely absorbing continuation longs there, and it will more than likely start either pulling back for a higher low, or that might be where it's going to reverse from. So we're not going to take a short from there immediately. We're just kind of observing to see what's happening. And now we're starting to see some rollover here. And some of our other indicators can tell us that we're overextended here. So the Fox oscillator is letting you know to just be mindful that it is conducive for shorts. So that's aligned as well. We start getting some bearish volume when it flips on the next candle. We'll talk about that in a second. So we got bearish volume coming in, and we know that we can flip bearish at any moment here. So that's what that magenta color right here is. Followed after the two inside bars, we get this magenta colored candle, and that means that it flipped bearish, right? So that's the color that I chose for that. And so we got some information happening, right? It took London's high with a fake out, followed by two inside bars, which means absorption, and then it flips bearish. So normally what I'm looking for at this point is a displacement candle to the downside, breaking the 20 EMA. That's what this purple candle is. But I entered in early on this candle because it was pretty much low risk at that point, right? So if the thesis is we're going lower from here, NQ looks like it's hitting resistance at this point and slowing down, and the indicators on NQ at that moment is telling us that it can reverse at it's imminent, right? Not reverse, but pull back, I should say. So things start to align right here. So I shorted because I'm pretty close to this high, and if we're going to rotate and take out liquidity lower, this is where it's going to go, and that high shouldn't be taken. So I'm not going to wait for it to dump and give me this displacement and break the 20 EMAs. I'm going to take the low risk opportunity and just short right here and put my stop at this high, right? So that was the whole idea behind it. And what am I looking for after I enter in short? This is exactly what I want to see. I want to see displacement breaking the 20 EMA. And not only did it break the 20 EMA, it also broke the 15-minute 20 EMA, which is this thicker line. to the downside. So that's great. That's letting us know that there's a lot of weakness there. We already know there's weakness because it is nowhere near where NQ is in relation to the charts. So that is great. So now once we get that nice drop off, we can immediately go break even there, right? So after this displacement candle occurred, I went break even. This is a little 4.5R trade. So I was break even and I pretty much walked away at that point, just let it roll, right? So once you're break even, there's nothing else you can do. There was a nice displacement candle, meaning that there should be a fair value gap being created there if it is truly bearish, which it did create one, and we will allow price to tap into that, but we don't want that to get disrespected. We want price to respect this candle if it does even tap into it. So a break even is really what you want to do in that situation anyway, because if it disrespects that fair value gap, then it's going to come and retest these inside bars, and these inside bars are also resistance, right? So it could come to retest those and fail from up there, but at that point we're pretty close to invalidation. We don't know if it's going to reverse from there or swipe the highs again. So again, once you get that nice displacement candle doing what you want, you go break even, just let it roll, right? So we get nice follow through all the way down, and the target was this low. And we do have gaps and stuff below, but we can't imagine that price is going to go that far to come back to the gap. You never know, but it's the day after a bank holiday, which is typically a day where you can see some seek and destroy or some choppy accumulation and price not expand, right? So you have to be careful on these type of days. So we're going to attack liquidity in this, instance, and not try to gun for the fences and come way down to where that gap was, right? It's way down here. It's actually almost came to the gap or almost into it, and then it found support. So it is what it is. We're not trying to, take the whole entire thing down. We just want a nice piece of the pie, right? That's the whole point in trading. You want to map out your entry, your stop loss, and your take profit, right? So we're not going to gun for the gap because it may not ever tap into it, because they know everybody's gunning for the gap, right? So they're going to stop just shy of it and mess around in here, and who knows if it's going to tap into it or stay above it until Asia, right? We don't know. We do know this liquidity is in trouble if we get a rejection from up here. So that's what we're going to target. As you can see, I closed just shy of this low. It started bouncing down and it took this internal liquidity, and I was watching it very closely, and as it was punching down, I moved my stop very tight. It was either going to run that liquidity and possibly shoot into the gap, or it was going to sweep that liquidity and turn around, or even worse, failure swing and possibly have a nice pullback or stay in the range, right? So there's some stuff that could happen there. So why play around if I'm already, the trade is pretty much over right there, right? We are, and I see people do this all the time, but we're literally half a point away from terminus. So why not close the trade or trail like super tight, right? I'm only giving it a couple, like 1 or 2 points to either take that out or pull back just slightly. I'm not gonna sit in a large pullback. There's just no reason for that. And this happens to traders all the time. They sit there and see this, they're so close to terminus, they watch it, barely swipe it, and then it starts pulling back, and they always think that, well, this is just a pullback, and then it'll come take it later, and then it comes all the way out to stop them break even, right? So you just don't want to play games with it. Close a trade and be done, right? You know, it didn't run too much farther than where I closed it, right? So it doesn't make sense to risk, you know, all these gains that you have and then have it pull back on you, right? So great recap for today. The long on M&Q was pretty straightforward. Let me turn this off. Let me delete this. Let's go to NQ. I was actually on the 3 or 2 minute. Can't remember. Yeah, I was on the 3 minute. So everything about NQ, we got some mixed signals here, but we know that we are in a good area for a pullback for the London 8-hour candle. So we expect this pullback into this zone here, and then we're going to look for bullishness. It does flip bullish with displacement breaking back above the 20 EMAs. So that is your entry, but we do have some conflicting stuff going on. However, with the decoupling, YM was falling off a cliff, ES was not going anywhere, which means NQ could most certainly rip in the opposite direction, right? Which is upwards in this case. So once we get this bullish candle, this is entry, and then you get followed by a second displacement candle, which can also be an entry candle as well. I entered long. I missed the market like right on the close. Usually when the candle closes, I hit it. It closed, and I hesitated for a couple seconds, let's just say that, and then I entered like, I don't know, a quarter of the way of this candle, and then it pumped up, and as you can see, it came back and took me out break even. So it's one of those scenarios where if you don't touch it, it would have went the distance for, you know, a 2.5 R. It does make you sick sometimes. Yeah, 2.5. So I was about right there for my trade. And then as soon as it pumps up here, I mean, that's quite a distance in itself, right? 66 points. There's just no reason to not be break even after a pump like that, and it's pretty much 1R anyway, so that's, you have to go break even or take a partial or something. So I went break even at about 1R, and I trade on NinjaTrader, so it puts me break even anyways, and unfortunately that pullback was a little too deep. Wicked me out, and it sucks, but when that happens, you can't force anything. I'm not gonna try to re-enter. I had my entry and I got taken out where I wanted to. There's a re-entry opportunity on that displacement candle, so you could have re-entered here. Stop at the bottom of that candle, and then shoot for like a 2R from there. At that point, which would put you somewhere around here. But once I miss my entry where I want to enter, I don't really like to enter after, right? Unless the continuation entry is really, really clear. Did place a higher high, higher low, but I had to just let it go at that point. But it does flip bearish here on this candle. So if you had bearishness, you could have waited for that. And it also aligns here with some of our indicator zones as far as resistance. So here you would wait for displacement and for it to break 20 EMA. The reason why is because NQ is so strong and ES wasn't. So ES is, in this scenario, a better asset to just jump in as soon as it flips and you're close to that high or low point. It's a low risk opportunity. However, with NQ being so strong, you want to wait for all the things, right? So it flips bearish at a bearish zone. I know I have it turned off here, but you want to wait for it to break the 20 EMA now and then get your displacement, and then you have all your ingredients, right? So on this guy, you pretty much enter in right here in that first displacement candle. You could put your stop at that same bar's high, or just a little bit above. It came pretty close, but wouldn't have stopped you out. And then you shoot for a 2R, which pretty much lines up with that liquidity point to the left, that internal low. I wouldn't shoot for this low on NQ like we are on ES. The reason being is because, again, NQ is a lot stronger. ES is the weaker asset. So on ES, you're going to go for the lower liquidity. It's going to have an easier time to get there. And because NQ is stronger, it may not run that low, right? So you're going to shoot for 2R upon entry and not try to swing for the fences. And plus, there's still a fair value gap right here, inversion. So this could be a place where it could find some support, which it did. And it took out this internal liquidity. So you got some ingredients there for a potential reversal, right? Liquidity sweep, tap into an inversion. It's pretty classic. A lot of people will enter there for a reversal, right? So nice little short. I don't like any trades after that because it's going to be low volume and you're going to have accumulation. You're going to expect accumulation, right? It's still the day after a bank holiday. So we had some nice movement, right? Movement up, and then we had some nice movement down. Beyond that, I wouldn't risk anything because you can put yourself stuck in a accumulation phase, which is exactly what's happening now. So you either caught the long or you caught the short, and you leave it alone after that, right? So that's the recap for today. Nice little short on MES, stopped break even on MNQ, and we're gonna see what we can do tomorrow.